Here are 7 tips for massive success from Jeff Bezos, a titan of industry. Tip number 1, be stubborn, be relentless, but stay flexible. Jeff Bezos was advised to not start Amazon.
I went to my boss and said to him, I'm going to go do this crazy thing, and I'm going to start this company selling books online. And this is something that I had already been talking to him about in a sort of more general context. But then he said, let's go on a walk. And we went on a 2-hour walk in Central Park in New York City. And the conclusion of that was this, he said, this actually sounds like a really good idea to me. But it sounds like it would be a better idea for somebody who didn't already have a good job.
Can you imagine if he had listened? Amazon wouldn't exist today. Luckily for us, he was stubborn about his vision. As Bezos points out, everyone has ideas. Ideas are easy. What's hard is turning those ideas into reality. What's hard is executing. On the road to realizing your ideas, there are a lot of steps in between. With each step comes obstacles that you cannot foresee in advance. To overcome them and climb the ladder to success, it takes persistence, stubbornness, and relentlessness. But it also requires flexibility. Be stubborn on your vision, on your goal, otherwise it's easy to give up. But be flexible on the details. Be flexible on how to get to your final destination. Because as you go on pursuing your vision, you'll find that some of your preconceptions were wrong. You'll have to step back, reassess, make a detour maybe. But as long as you have the end in mind, you'll get to where you want to go by overcoming the obstacles and taking one step forward at a time. Bringing your ideas to life is hard work. Be nimble. Be robust. Tip number 2, have resourcefulness and be self-reliant. As Elon Musk says, executing on an idea, and more so if it's a startup, is like eating glass and staring into the abyss.
Generally, starting a business, I'd say number 1 is have a high pain threshold. That's it. There's a friend of mine who's got a good saying, which is that starting a company is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. Okay, that's generally what happens, because when you first start a company, there's lots of optimism and things are great, and then so happiness at first is high. Then you encounter all sorts of issues, and happiness will steadily decline, and then you'll go through a whole world of hurt. And then eventually, if you succeed, and in most cases you will not succeed, and Tesla almost didn't succeed, came very close to failure. Then if you succeed, then after a long time, you will finally get back to happiness.
He means that every time you move things forward, you'll run into problems, things won't work, you'll have to backtrack and try again. Growing up, Bezos worked on his grandfather's farm, where he learned to solve all kinds of problems using only his own brain and the resources he had on hand. It taught him how to be resourceful and self-reliant. At each of your setback points, be resourceful. Find quick and clever ways to overcome difficulties. Adapt to your environment by solving each and every problem that's thrown at you. The more adaptable you are, the easier it is for you to survive. When setbacks come, wallowing in self-pity does not bring about any advantages. Instead, be an adept at solving your own problems efficiently.
But you've struggled too.
Of course, everybody struggles. The iron rule of life is everybody struggles.
I try and think back of what the toughest moments might have been and how you got through some of those. And I mean,
well, we all know how to get through them. The great of realism are also the great philosophers of what I call soldiering through. If you soldier through, you can get through almost anything. And it's your only option. You can't bring back the dead, you can't cure the dying child, you can't do all kinds of things. You have to soldier through, and you just somehow you soldier through. If you have to walk through the streets crying for a few hours a day as part of soldiering through, go ahead and cry away, but you can't quit. You can cry all right, but you can't quit.
you've had time in your life when you've done that?
Sure. I cried all the time when my first child died, but I knew I couldn't change the fate.
No one is coming to save you. Your life is in your own hands. Be self-reliant. Apply extreme ownership to your life. The thing is, you can choose a life of ease and comfort, or you can choose a life of service and adventure. When you're 80, Which one of those things are you going to be more proud of? When things get tough, will you give up or will you be resourceful? Tip number 3, take a long-term point of view. Bezos doesn't focus on the current quarter at Amazon. Instead, he and his executive team work on initiatives set to be realized years into the future.
Talk to me about long-term thinking and your point of view on.
Well, long-term thinking is a lever. It lets you do things that you could not do or couldn't even conceive of doing if you were thinking short-term.
None of the people who report to me should really be focused on the current quarter. I always tell people, sometimes I get, we'll have a good quarterly conference call or something, and Wall Street will like our quarterly results, and people will stop me and say, congratulations on your quarter, and I say thank you. But what I'm really thinking is, that quarter was baked 3 years ago, and that's what you need to be doing. You need to be out sort of 2 or 3 years in advance. And if you are, and then why do I need to make 100 decisions today? If I make like 3 good decisions a day, that's enough. And they should just be as high quality as I can make them.
This long-term thinking drives Amazon's success. Think long-term. By looking beyond immediate concerns, you can set goals that anticipate future needs, leading to better preparedness and sustainable success. Think about the great expanse of time that's ahead of you and plan it in a way that will ultimately make you satisfied. You may not realize it, but the stage you're at today reflects the work you did 2 to 3 years ago. So to be in a better position 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, you need to start putting in the work today. Think about your end goal, your vision, your idea then. Plan out the steps to get there. But don't rush. Take the necessary time. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. If you force yourself to complete big ideas in just 2 to 3 years, you might limit their potential. But if you give yourself 7 years, you could see a far different outcome. Breathing room gives you more opportunities. Lean into the future. Tip number 4, keep in mind that things take time.
Basically, you can't skip steps. You have to put one foot in front of the other. Things take time. There are no shortcuts. And but you want to do those steps with passion and ferocity.
Amazon turned a profit for the first time 9 years after it was founded. Amazon is not alone. Airbnb also took 9 years to turn a profit. Twitter and Etsy took 12 years, and Tesla took 16 years. These founders kept going. They know that small efforts, each day, in the right areas compound into massive success down the track. As Einstein said, compounding is the 8th wonder of the world. Bezos reminds us that success is a journey, not a sprint. You can't skip steps. You have to put one foot in front of the other. But you need to take those steps with passion and ferocity. Impatient in actions, but patient in results. Tip number 5, minimize regrets. When his boss advised him against starting Amazon, Bezos didn't just take the advice at face value, even though it came from someone supposedly smarter and wiser. Instead, he developed a framework to help him decide whether to take a leap and start his own company or stay in his cushy, high-paying job.
I went away and was trying to find the right framework in which to make that kind of big decision. And I'd already talked to my wife about this, and she was very supportive and said, look, you can count me in 100%, whatever you want to do. It's true, she had married this kind of fairly stable guy in a stable career path, and now he wanted to go do this crazy thing, but she was 100% supportive. So it really was a decision that I had to make for myself, and the framework I found, which made the decision incredibly easy, was what I called, which only a nerd would call, a regret minimization framework. So I wanted to project myself forward to age 80 and say, okay, now I'm looking back on my life. I want to have minimized the number of regrets I have. And I knew that when I was 80, I was not going to regret having tried this. I was not going to regret having wanted, trying to participate in this thing called the internet that I thought was going to be a really big deal. I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that. But I knew the one thing I might regret is not ever having tried. And I knew that that would haunt me every day. And So when I thought about it that way, it was an incredibly easy decision. And I think that's a very good, it's if you can project yourself out to age 80 and sort of think, what will I think at that time? It gets you away from some of the daily pieces of confusion. You know, I left this Wall Street firm in the middle of the year. When you do that, you walk away from your annual bonus. And that's the kind of thing that in the short term can confuse you. But if you think about the long term, then you can really make good life decisions that you won't regret later. Most regrets, by the way, are acts of omission and not commission. You know, I think most people when they're 80 years old, you know, you can do bad things. You can go murder somebody, and that would be bad, and that would be an act of commission that you would regret. But most, you know, everyday, ordinary, non-murderers, their big regrets are omissions.
What can help you make life-altering decisions, especially when there's no hard data to guide you? Like whether to start a business? Whatever data you may have about a business you'd like to start, success is never guaranteed. Luck plays a role. So what can help you make this decision? You could use Bezos' regret minimization framework. How does it work? Imagine yourself at 80 years old looking back on your life. Ask yourself, if I don't do this now, will I regret it when I'm 80? Will you be thinking, if only I had done it, if only I had taken the chance? Trying and failing doesn't breed regret, but the decision not to try, that's likely to haunt you. This framework works for both career and family decisions. Use it wisely and use it often. You might be afraid to dive headfirst into a challenge, but as Graham Weaver, founder and managing partner of Alpine Investors, points out in his Stanford lecture, How to Live an Asymmetric Life. Everything new is hard at first before it gets easier.
This chart right here shows our lives. And this is what happens. We get kind of complacent, you know, or we get comfortable. And if we want to move forward and get to the next peak, the magic is to understand that your life is almost always going to get worse first. Any change that you want to make is almost always going to get worse first. So if you're in a relationship and you have to have a hard conversation, that particular night, your life is going to get a little worse, and then you're going to come out the other and it's going to get better. Or if you need to leave a relationship that you shouldn't be in the first place, your life's going to get worse first. If you want to change careers and you want to learn something new, you're going to go down the learning curve. Your salary's probably going to go down. You're going to not be good at your job when you first start. Your life's going to get worse first. You want to start a new habit. You want to take a cold shower. You want to meditate. You want to start exercising. It's going to get worse first. And you're going to follow this pattern, but you need to realize that the thing that's keeping you there is the first move is always going to be worse. And eventually what's going to happen is these downward curves are going to get a lot shallower, because you know what the biggest part of that curve is? It's just fear. The biggest part of that curve is just fear. So the more you put yourself in situations where you do hard things, the shallower and shallower those divots are going to get, because you're going to remove that fear, just like I mentioned in the rowing example. I had no fear at 2,000 meters, or at 1,500 meters. Everything that you want in this life is on the other side of worse first.
Don't fear challenges. Be bold. Taking the less traveled, uncertain path could be the key to a life well lived. Tip number 6, find your passion, find meaning. You can have a job, you can have a career, or you can have a calling.
You guys will find that you have passion, and having a passion is a gift. I think we all have passions, and you don't get to choose them, they pick you, but you have to be alert to them. You have to be looking for them. And when you find your passion, it's a fantastic gift for you, because it gives you direction, it gives you purpose. You could have a job, or you can have a career, or you can have a calling. And the best thing is to have a calling. And if you find your passion, you'll have that, and all your work won't feel like work to you.
If you can figure out how to have a calling, you've hit the jackpot. How can you find your calling and passion? Try a bunch of jobs and activities. Try any job or activity that sparks even a slight interest. As you gain knowledge and expertise in one of those areas, you may find that it naturally turns into your passion. As you try new things, reflect on them. If you don't like what you're trying, move on to the next thing. Very few grow up knowing exactly what their passion is. Finding your passion often involves a mix of exploration, self-reflection, and developing expertise in a field that grows on you over time. Fast feedback is key. If you're interested, give it a try. If you like it, continue. If not, move on to the next thing. However, ensure you give yourself enough time to genuinely evaluate whether you enjoy something. You might start something and think it's too hard, but giving up too early could mean missing out on something you would have truly loved if you'd pushed through the initial challenges. Tip number 7, be frugal, be bold.
Now, I've heard a lot about your desk.
It's a door with 4x4s.
Come on.
What?
I mean, you can afford a better desk than that.
It's a symbol of spending money on things that matter to customers and not spending money on things that don't.
At one point on Friday, Amazon.com's total stock market value surged past $30 billion, making it worth more than a major industrial company like Texaco. That didn't blow your mind when you read it?
Well, I think if you're asking for sort of an emotional response, I think it's very humbling, and it creates a sense of responsibility.
According to my calculations, you yourself are worth somewhere in the vicinity of $9 or $10 billion today. I only say that because I've got a follow-up question.
Okay.
What's with the Honda?
This is a perfectly good car.
Even after getting to billionaire status, Bezos kept driving his Honda. It might be wise to follow his example. Be frugal. Don't spend on unnecessary things. Use the financial resources you save to be bold in trying new experiences. Start that business. Take that trip. Experiment. Make sure you're spending on the right things. In business, it's about figuring out what brings the most value to your customers, not buying the coolest office furniture. In life, it's about choosing experiences that help you grow as a person. Because if you're not growing, you're decaying. Spending on material possessions brings only temporary satisfaction due to hedonic adaptation. That thing you thought would bring happiness, it fades after a while. Thinking carefully about where you spend your hard-earned money can lead to far greater rewards, financially and personally. Being frugal allows you to take bold bets. And bold bets? They can lead to remarkable adventures. A few key successes will more than compensate for the times things didn't work out. But always cap your downside risk. Take smart risks, not reckless ones. In the end, life is about more than just accumulating wealth. It's about the adventures you take and the people you share them with. So save smartly, spend wisely, and use your resources to build a life rich with both adventure and fellowship. On your road to success, if there's one thing you'll need to constantly improve, it's the ability to acquire new skills. What better place to start than Skillshare? Consider checking out Skillshare to learn from the best. Real-life entrepreneurs like Ali Abdaal, Thomas Frank, Sorella More, and MKBHD share their expertise on the platform. Click the link in the video description for your first month free. If you found this video valuable, hit the like button and please remember to subscribe. On this channel, we cover personal finance and emerging technologies. If you like this video, you're going to love this one on screen, which is about 7 tips for success from the real-life Iron Man, Elon Musk. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.